Hi, I'm Keith Ghostland.
I'm Ann Charles.
And I'm Linda Quinlan. And I'd like to welcome you to All Things LGBTQ. It is Thursday, July 5th. So, should we do our headlines?
I was going to say, now you're expecting some headlines and coherent speech, right?
Yeah.
So, coming out of Canada, there's two stories. One is from Alberta, where a judge has issued a ruling about a new law that they may have been trying to put in place relative to gay straight alliances. You know, great, that's us. The
Great state.
The great. Also, and this I just picked up off the news service just before I came down for this taping, Toronto. Apparently the saga continues, and we'll give you some updates. It's not a fun time. Maine, their legislature finally passed their ban on conversion therapy.
Yeah.
The big question now is LePage has 10 days to sign it.
And will he?
Bingo. And then as part of the commentary, and we'll probably get to talk about it a bit, apparently there is already a growing national initiative from the religious freedom people to try and overturn the bans on conversion therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that some more. Human Rights Campaign. LGBTQ workers. Are you out at work? Apparently half of us aren't, and we'll definitely talk about that. There were 18 state attorney generals who filed suit against the federal administration relative to immigration policies, breaking up of families. Yes, we were one of them. And then let's talk a little bit about ICE.
Yes.
You know, there is that national move of trying to eliminate them. Well, how did ICE really start? And when you call ICE, who's answering the phone?
Cube.
No,
Did you hear that terrible joke?
yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. Oh, dear.
It's Linda.
It's a heat wave joke.
We're going to talk a lot more about that. And
It is very
so, trivia in honor of the 4th of July. And last year we talked about Baron Friedrich von Steuben, the little bugger. So this year, and this is extracted from a letter that is in the National Archives. And the question is, who wrote it and to whom was it written? Here's the quote. "Till you bade us adieu, I hardly knew the value you had taught my heart to set upon you."
Oh, it's so
Wouldn't you like someone to write that to you?
Yeah.
You might be surprised. So what you got?
Well,
You've been sitting there smirking.
because I'm about to commend my co-hosts, organizers of our entry in the Montpelier Alive 3rd of July parade. And we have two pictures for you. One is of the award-winning truck. We got third prize in performance, and Linda told me it's a popular vote.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought,
I didn't know that.
I know it. We were
Yeah.
cheered, but we were voted for, so that's a hoot. And then the second picture I'd like to show you is of our ragtag group of marchers. 5 of them, regrettably, are missing. At the end, the truck got separated from the marchers. So we're missing Oliver, Oscar, Julia, Jay, and Mara Iverson, soon to be a guest on our show. So we were all together. We had a great time, and we owe it to my
Alec was
co-host.
there too.
Yes.
Alec.
Did Alec march with us?
Yeah.
Joined us from the crowd.
Yeah.
Dolores.
Dolores.
No, but Alec too.
No, that's Dolores.
Alex Noonan is
Oh,
Dolores.
oh.
Dolores Alexander.
I see.
Oh, I didn't
okay.
see them.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They joined us when we were marching past Bethany Church.
Yep.
Great, great. So we had a great time, and we'll do it again. And as I said, my two co-hosts are responsible.
And thank Chris Rowley for his try.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
He's
I
in the
know.
picture, though.
Yeah.
We're not going to thank individuals in the picture because
No.
we appear there. So that is not international news, but I think it's pertinent and timely. In getting back to international news, I'd like to talk for a moment about gay swans in Austria. Thank you to my
Oh, you're
colleague
welcome.
for giving me that story. In a historic move, Ecuador's same-sex marriage ban has been held to be illegal. A transgender woman has become the first to win Miss Universe Spain, and I have a picture of her now. Her name is Angela Ponce. She's 23, and she's now going to enter the Miss Universe pageant. She beat 22 countries. I'm sorry, she beat 22 finalists, and now she's going to compete, and you see the picture. Let's move next to Bulgaria, where a court has backed same-sex couples' EU residence rights. And I'd like to chat a little about Bulgaria in our last show. Billy Elliot, that fabulous play, has precipitated a purge in Hungary. Hungary wants to ban Billy Elliot because it's gay propaganda. It's a fabulous play. All right, on to Africa. Eswatini Gay Pride waves its rainbow flag for the first time, and Eswatini is the new name of Swaziland. Used to be Swaziland, now it's Eswatini, and they had their first Pride parade. Kenya takes steps to recognize intersex people. Good news from Angola. And remember last time I mentioned the Kakuma refugees who had an LGBT pride parade. Now they're getting death threats, but they vow to continue. Finally, 3 LGBTI activists are murdered in Mexico. I have a picture of them. They had, it's the state in Mexico where all the children were kidnapped. They had someone tried to extort them, and they declined, and so a truck pulled up and extracted them from the gay bar where they were. Their names are Ruben Estrada, Roberto Vega, and Carlos Uriel Lopez. Someone tried to extort money. They took them from the bar, and their bodies were found. They don't know whether it was a hate crime or regular crime, because it's very gang infested, and travel advisories have been issued for this particular state, Guerrero, because there's so much violence there. So it's very sad. They were very strong activists and young, as you can see in their picture. So one more thing, I'm not going to get to this story, but the Philippines, Manila Pride marchers demand equal rights as the Philippines review gay marriage ban, but Filipinos are really anti-gay. I read a study, 61% of Filipinos oppose homosexuality, so I don't know that the gay marriage ban,
Catholic.
well, it's the Catholicism factor.
And Muslim.
Well, mostly Catholic.
It's the Catholics,
So, but
yeah.
nevertheless, thousands marched in Manila.
Good.
So those are my headlines.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ann.
Oh, it's my great pleasure, Linda.
And we're going to talk about the Supreme Court nominees and the top 2, which people are saying are generally the top 2 of his 5 or 6
Deplorables on the
deplorables.
docket.
One of the South's last lesbian bar is closing. Teen accused of brutally beating gay man and held him captive
In a church.
Massachusetts. Study shows that LGBTQ teen athletes are closeted. In Dixon, California, Vice Mayor Tom Hickman called LGBTQ people fairies and Tinkerbells.
He's got to go.
Really?
A member of MS-13 gang in Southern California was arrested and charged with the murder of a 10-year-old boy who said he liked boys. The Texas GOP endorses ex-gay therapy. Hannah Gadsby's next Netflix special is called Nanette.
It's supposed to be great.
She grapples not only with Louis C.K., but sexism and power in comedy. I haven't seen it yet.
This is on Netflix right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think
I'm
it's a
hoping to watch
one-shot
it.
thing.
Yeah, it's a one-shot thing. It's on for an hour. And it's got good recommendations, and so we're probably going to watch it soon. Scarlett Johansson to play trans masculine character in the 1970s mob movie. And there is much controversy about her playing this part. The United States Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, is expected to host a ceremony next Wednesday. The Journal of Personality and Social Psychology decision to place Stanford University research claiming artificial intelligence could determine a person's sexual orientation by using facial recognition. Fox newest hire Tommy Laureen, an anti-trans activist. So those are my stories.
Oh.
Encouraging.
I know. There's no bottom.
The things that one could say in response to that line just
Yeah, I
staggers
know.
the. So I'm going to Canada.
Let's all go.
Alberta, they had a law in place that schools need to notify parents and guardians if students are going to receive any kind of instruction on sexuality or religion. This past year, they put an exemption on that said this did not include a student's participation in a gay-straight alliance. And in fact, they went so far as to say, we want to make it crystal clear that kids will not be outed. So they understood, that you may be giving information to an unsupportive family member, whatever. That law passed, and it was going to be put into effect April 1st. Until,
But then,
now,
see if this name vaguely sounds familiar.
is it deplorable?
The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms.
Freedom
Filed.
to Marry group?
No, this is a group of parents
Ah,
and 26 faith-based schools
oh.
filed suit saying, no, we think this is unconstitutional. We want you to put a stay on this until it is able to go through our courts and the determinations be made. They were said, you need to show us, how this would have a negative impact or how it's unconstitutional, and they kind of sort of couldn't do that. So a judge issued an order lifting the stay. So this goes into effect. But what was interesting is in the judge's decision, there is no proof gay-straight alliances cause harm, but there is evidence demonstrating the groups provide a public good, including a reduction in casual sex and drug use, improved school performance, an increased sense of safety and enhanced psychological well-being among students who participate in GSAs. The effect on LGBTQ plus students in granting an injunction would result in both the loss of supportive GSAs in their schools and send the message that their diverse identities are less worthy of protection. Would be considerably more harmful than temporarily limiting a parent's right to know and make decisions about their child's involvement. And the judge also went on to say that the act in itself in no way restricts the rights of parents or schools to continue to impart their religious and moral value.
Yay. Oh, Canada.
We're going to Canada.
I know.
yes.
The other piece for Canada, Toronto, and we've talked about this on some previous shows, despite law enforcement initially saying, no, 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 there is not a serial killer who is preying upon gay men in the village in Toronto. Yes, indeed, it's true. And as I was coming down here, there was a news release coming out of Toronto that they've actually found more bodies today. And they had returned to a site which they hadn't had access to by weather and topography. The dogs indicated that there are things there to be found.
Oh, jeez.
So it apparently is far from over. But I'm also following up because I remembered that they had said at one point there were all of those unsolved mysteries, murders from 30 years ago, which would fit this profile. And I haven't seen if they've gone back to investigate those. Really quickly, Maine. On June 26th, they finally passed their ban on conversion therapy. This gives Governor LePage 10 days, the same as in Vermont, to either sign it into law, veto it, or let it become law without a signature. And people are waiting to see what he's going to do. And part of what might be influencing his decision, there was another Supreme Court decision last year relative to the abortion clinics in California, where it's actually the anti-abortion clinics who California law says you need to tell women all their options, not just what you're trying to intimidate them to do. And they filed suit and said that this has a negative impact on their freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. And actually, it was Clarence Thomas who wrote the majority opinion.
Really?
He doesn't write that many because
No.
he doesn't do it that well. But he wrote in the majority, the court protected anti-choice centers that advocate intimidating patients with anti-abortion messages. It's okay, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the majority, because it's just a viewpoint. To do otherwise would be viewpoint discrimination. Remember that phrase? Because there's also already a growing group of Christian organizations who were using this as a basis to challenge and try and overturn the bans on conversion therapy. Far from over.
No.
So what you got?
I've got the gay swans
Oh, I love the swans.
and their eggs. You have before you now a picture of one of the pair of birds. They have unfortunately been attacking swimmers in the Austrian town of Grunsley. Several people were hospitalized with minor injuries.
You're kidding.
There are two swans. One human victim had a 10-inch wound. So
From swans?
the swan inflicted it on the human. Franz Steinegger, mayor of Grunsley, told a regional newspaper, "We thought this was temporary breeding or courtship behavior, but it got worse." So the mayor prepared to have the animals killed, which is, I guess, the procedure if wild animals become a threat to humans. Although I don't, well, all right. Animal rescuer.
Yeah, but we don't reciprocate.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Alexander Groder, an animal rescuer, intervened. Good for him. He trapped the birds, and you see one of them in transit under somebody's arm, and transported them to a protected pond. It may be two male swans living in a relationship, Groder speculated, but one of them is strongly suppressed by the other, and I could imagine that the aggression comes from there as well, so they had a complicated relationship, these male swans. They were also protecting their nest, but instead of eggs, they were sitting on brightly colored plastic cups. It's not clear if the cups will accompany the swans to their new home.
I hope so.
Well, I'm glad they've survived. They typically mate for life, Same-sex attraction has been observed in around 1,500 species of animals. These swans are among them, I believe. So, good news for the Austrian swans. Other good news from Ecuador. The Ecuador court has, for the first time in Ecuador's history, a legal institution has argued that banning same-sex marriage is illegal. Last week, 2 separate judges ruled the ban violates the human rights of LGBTQIA people. Judges in the Family, Women, and Children and Adolescents Court ruled in favor of 2 lesbian couples. The Civil Registry Office had rejected their marriage license applications. The judges' rulings will have national repercussions. It's expected that this advance in human rights in Ecuador will strengthen the appeal and will open the possibility for same-sex couples to be really free and equal and to realize their dreams, a spokesperson for the feminist legal collective told Gay Star News. LGBT people face daily violence and persecution in Ecuador. Even though homosexuality is not illegal there, LGBTI people do not have many of the same rights as straight people. Local organizations such as Asociación ChandlerTheater told Gay Star News there's been a rise in violent assaults and murder of trans people in the past year. Ecuador has a shocking record when it comes to gay conversion therapy, which we were just talking about. Even though it's been illegal since 1997, LGBTI people, especially lesbians, undergo extreme emotional and physical torture. They reported force-feeding, beatings, and corrective rape during their gay conversion therapy. So Ecuador has taken a step forward. I mentioned the transgender candidate for Miss Universe. So let's go on to Bulgaria, if we may. A Sofia court has backed the right of a same-sex couple to live in Bulgaria, activists announced Wednesday, in the first such case for the EU nation that does not recognize gay marriage. And here's an opportunity for me to correct a misconception that I may have perpetuated last time. Bulgaria is in the EU. It's getting pressure from the EU to improve their laws about homosexuality. This is in contradistinction to other countries that aren't in the EU that are getting pressure or that are trying to clean up their act so they can be admitted, like the Ukraine and Turkey, although Turkey's got to be a lost cause at this point.
I think
the
so.
Istanbul Pride was a mess. But anyway, I was afraid there was some confusion there, and I hope it's
you've cleared it up, Ann.
Yes. The court claim was brought by an Australian woman who was banned from residing in Bulgaria in 2017, together with her French spouse, after the couple got married in France in mid-2016. But the ruling on June 29th, by the Sofia Administrative Court overturned the Interior Ministry's Migration Directorate ban, saying that upholding this ban would hinder the right of the EU partner to move and reside freely in the territory of the EU. The ruling was also in line with the decision of the EU's top court of justice in Luxembourg, stating that EU laws on freedom of movement oblige all member states to allow residency of the non-European spouses of EU citizens, including same-sex partners, even if they did not recognize same-sex marriage. So it's pressure from the EU, which is welcome to us. Bulgaria does not allow same-sex marriage, and the Sofia Administrative Court also refused in January to recognize the marriage of 2 Bulgarian women who wedded in Britain in November 2016. Reports of violence against gay people are rare, but prejudice and discrimination remain a problem in Bulgaria, the U.S. Department of State said in 2017. Now, may I say something about Billy Elliot?
Go ahead.
Or would we go to you?
Billy Elliot?
All right. Billy Elliot, a wonderful play, has been attacked by the mouthpiece of the Fidesz party, which is called Magyar Idok. It's the name of the paper. Children who watched the opera's performance of Billy Elliot were in danger of becoming homosexual, wrote Sophia N. Horvath in her opinion piece.
If I touch you, you're queer.
And the thing about the play is that Billy Elliot is not gay, and he clarifies that, remember? But, you know, he has a gay friend, and he says, it's okay if you are, it's okay if I'm not. It's very,
It's very upbeat.
yeah. Even the red stars used in the performance in Budapest's cavernous Erkel Theater were attacked in the show as banned symbols. As we know, Billy Elliot tells the story of an 11-year-old boy who decides to become a ballet dancer during the 1984 miners' strike in the UK. One scene in which the boy's dress in women's clothes was identified as particularly offensive and corrupting. The attack has triggered a storm in Hungarian media, and Horvath's outrage is peculiar because this is the musical's third season in the Budapest Opera. It opened in 2016 and has never been criticized before.
They just caught on.
The head of the opera also enjoys support from the very top. But the weird thing about this also is this attacker in the media, Sophia N. Horvath, is a mystery person. There's no known journalist with this name. So these attacks are coming. And
It's Bannon trolling again. and
Maybe.
Creating that fake news.
Yeah.
so the prime minister is against this whole thing. He's a member of the opera. He's seen the play. All areas of cultural life should be purged, this phantom newspaper critic says, of those who allow space for liberal, globalist, and cosmopolitan ideas, including
It was probably Putin.
the state new agency in Hungary, maybe. I doubt it, though. But
Well,
we
no,
digress.
they attack us here.
It should be purged of places including the new state agency, the Hungarian Academy of Scientists, and even Patofi Radio, a public service music channel. According to Hungary's dominant according to a reporter who has an identity and is a real person, Hungary's dominant political system has evolved. So much culture, so must culture as well. The Prime Minister hit back. He said that if homosexuality was a problem in the arts, certain works by Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, and Strauss could hardly be performed. Last week, however, he announced that 15 of the 44 scheduled performances of Billy Elliot had been canceled, not because of the media controversy, but because of a fall in ticket sales in the wake of this controversy.
God's sakes.
If parents hear from one side that Billy Elliot is gay propaganda, while from the other that this is terribly homophobic, they may conclude that our production is at least problematic, when in fact, of course, it isn't. Everyone is making a mountain out of a molehill, he said, using a well-known cliche. More than 100,000 people have already seen Billy Elliot in Hungary, which means that it's been a success.
What's the population?
I don't know, but thanks to the musical, the opera has also managed to found a ballet school, he added, which now has only over 100 students.
Good.
So Billy Elliot prevails even though ticket sales are down.
Now we go to the Supreme Court.
Oh dear.
The two candidates that I've been hearing about mostly are Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. And they're likely
only been
the
on
two
the court
top
since last
candidates to
October.
fill Judge Kennedy's
Okay, one person at a time,
See-
says the English teacher among us.
seat when he retires. He has written almost entirely for big business, Homeland Security, and favors gun rights and anti-abortion issues. He dissented in the case to let a 17-year-old immigrant who is being held in a shelter from getting abortion because she was here illegally. He is a Washington insider, and served as law clerk to Judge Kennedy, who we know is retiring this year. Amy Coney Barrett wrote a letter in 2005 to the Synod Fathers for Catholic Women saying, "We give witness that the church teachings on marriage and family founded on the dissoluble commitment of a man and a woman." This week, since Justice Anthony M. Kennedy announced his retirement, the future of Roe versus Wade has dominated the conversation about both liberals and conservatives, becoming a flashpoint in the partisan battle over President Trump picked for this seat. The effect Justice Kennedy's retirement could have on lesbians, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights has received less attention. The challenge from the conservative groups that oppose gay marriage, who may see an opportunity to challenge rulings that have been established its legality. LGBTQ groups have made great advances in recent years, thanks largely to the Supreme Court's decision written by Justice Kennedy involving cases that legalized gay sex and established the right to same-sex marriage.
Now,
So,
can I say something?
yes.
I feel like the times are terrible, but we can't despair. We can't go in, we have to keep fighting however we can. I mean, our colleague Ann Northrup says, do one thing every day. Do what you can, because we can't, I mean, it's really awful and it's getting worse, but we can't give in to that. It's my homily
Yes.
for today.
The woman nominee who you're referencing has only been on the bench since last October.
I know.
This
And
is
that
not-
other one is a snake in the grass. I remember him when that young woman
That woman
was
wanted to get
refused.
Yeah.
Yeah, the abortion.
Gee, so what else you got?
All right. One of the South's last lesbian bars is closing. The 35-year-old community haven and familiar watering hole called Her She Bar in Norfolk, Virginia, is being demolished. The Norfolk Council voted to purchase the property where the bar leases from. The property sold for $1.5 million, and at this time, the city officials have no plans for using that land.
So they went bankrupt, or what happened?
You
No.
got sold out from underneath them.
They're being demolished.
Oh.
So they probably won't reopen, but anyway. And there's a teen accused of brutally beating a gay man he held captive in Massachusetts in a church. Jackson Segru has been charged with a hate crime after he attacked Otoni Ellison. Segru held him captive for 4 days and repeatedly beat him. Ellison, 50, was found lying on the ground, bloodied and bruised, after he managed to escape. Police arrested Jackson in Framingham. The assailant's lawyers are saying that actually Segru was a victim of
Gay panic?
gay panic. Yeah, the gay panic attack. So you hold someone in a
Oh my
closet for
gosh.
4 days. You beat them. A bathroom, was
It
it?
was the bathroom.
And you beat them, and then you say,
And
"Oh, I was
starve them.
afraid of them." I mean, it's unbelievable. Study shows that LGBTQ teen athletes are closeted, and apparently it doesn't get any better in college.
No.
Only 5 schools have fan codes for conduct that prohibit anti-LGBTQ language.
Anti-LGBT?
Yeah, only 5 of the college schools. And the vice mayor, Tom Hickman, says we're fairies and Tinkerbells.
Where are my wings?
I know. And not much is going to be done about him, but anyway. The Texas GOP endorses ex-gay therapy. Oh, this is their platform. So, they want to repeal the hate crime law and marriage reversal. The GOP platform in Texas will be anti-LGBTQ. The party endorses ex-gay therapy and supports business rights to discriminate against anyone who is offended by their religious beliefs. It makes a new call to repeal hate crime laws and opposes all efforts to recognize trans people's identities. So this is,
And Keith has an addendum from
yeah,
Texas.
isn't that amazing?
The 2018 Texas GOP platform has
Yeah.
24 anti-LGBT planks out of 81, and that's after their log cabin group
Cut it down.
got some of them
Yeah.
pulled back. Yeah.
Yep. And I guess I'm going to probably miss a bunch of stories here, but anyway, I can get back to them. But there is some people are doing research on how to determine a person's sexual orientation using facial recognition. I guess, I don't know what to say about that. They didn't do any people of color or anything. They just did white people, and they feel they can.
And only the pretty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And they feel they can work on this to make it more efficient
Oh my
and
gosh.
to work better. So,
Very quickly.
oh God.
Human Rights Campaign did a survey. 46% of LGBTQ workers are closeted at work. They are confronting anti-LGBTQ language, pejorative jokes, etc. They are not, we are not challenging it because we don't think there's anything that would be done. And then looking at what's happening on a federal level with the Department of Justice doing the amicus brief saying that Title VII does not apply to people who identify as transgender or LGB. It sets a climate where all of the political change that we have been trying to make is being undermined on a social level. We're creating an unsafe environment regardless of the positive pieces that we're putting forward. And as an example, recently we received an email talking about a very hostile encounter that happened here in Vermont, where because of the situation, the individual did not feel as though they could really confront because of issues of safety. And that needs to be our paramount concern. If it's not safe, you need to protect yourself.
And in
But this
Vermont,
is-
don't we have a right, what is it? You can get fired for any cause, right? I mean, we have laws protecting you, but,
You're talking about at-will employee.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone sees a picture of you and your partner, they may not say that that's why you're being fired, but,
And
Legal counsel will tell you that the
Yeah.
only line you give is your services are no longer
Right.
required.
I was surprised by that high percentage, 46%
Yeah.
So
of
was
people.
I.
And then I reflected on my own professional career.
And you majored in what?
And all the homophobic jokes that wafted around, even though I was an open lesbian, And I remember one party, somebody made a crack and it wafted across the room, and the guy said, "Sorry, Ann," not good enough.
No.
So
No.
it's an ongoing thing, but still, I thought
Yeah,
more people were open.
Well, it's one of those push me, pull me, where you're looking at social advancement and political advancement and what is the relationship between the two.
Yeah.
And how one has an impact on the other. Usually social change is what brings about legislative change. But in this instance, what we're seeing is an eroding of the legislative change, and it's having a negative impact on the social change that we've been
Right.
trying to achieve. Really quickly about ICE, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is that ICE originally was formed as a means of getting information and responding to trafficking, selling human beings. And then under the current
It
regime,
morphed into this.
under the current regime is sort of morphed into, and all of the tips going in of, let me tell you about my neighbor, let me tell you about my ex-girlfriend. Oh, I saw what this employer was doing, goes into a centralized call center, and it's both national and international calls. And the center happens to be in Williston, Vermont.
No kidding.
And Patrick Leahy was one of the
Isn't there
few.
something in St. Albans also?
Well, that's immigration.
Okay.
I've been there.
Okay.
But Patrick Leahy was one of the people who helped put this center together, and it was to respond to sex trafficking. This is he has had some strong language saying, if this is how the current regime is trying to expand it and repressive policies, we really need to look at what it is that's going on. We got 2 minutes. You
Are
got
we
something quick?
Trivia.
But first, I think there's an
Wait,
interview.
Oh my gosh.
And
of
there
course.
And
is-
it may have been
it's-
done by someone sitting
Right.
here.
And
Yes.
3 people, and I think it was from people from the Vermont Pride Festival,
Which
right?
is coming up soon.
That's
So,
right.
Anne, you want to tell us who they are?
Well, I think I tell them in the interview, so
Okay.
let's just roll the interview.
Let's just roll that interview.
I'm here with Bennett Law and Andra Kistler and Susan Lloyd. They're with the ChandlerTheater, and they're here to tell us about the Pride Festival. Who wants to start? Well, I'll
right
start. It's going to be it's going to be the 11th through the 29th, 2 weekends.
No, the 20th through the 29th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's 2
The art
weekends.
exhibit is 11th through the 29th.
Right.
My mistake.
In conjunction with the festival, there's 2 weekends of plays, plays presented each weekend. And in conjunction with that, we have Gabriel Q is doing a showing of his masks and puppets and costumes that he's developed over the years. It's amazing. It's fanciful. It's really delightful.
So
we're
that's
excited about
in
that.
addition to the plays.
That's right. It's in the lower gallery at the Chandler Center for the Arts throughout the Pride Festival.
Is this a new feature, or do you often do
This is the 3rd time I think we've had a guest visual artist. We've had 2 painters in the past. We had Andy Newman one year, and we had Marie Lepre Grabon a second year.
I remember that
Yes.
exhibit.
Yep.
Bennett, as we know from last interview, is one of the founders of the festival. And Andra's been involved from the beginning.
Right from the start. Yep.
Yeah. And Susan is a relative newcomer?
Feels like I've been there a couple years.
Uh-huh.
A couple years, yeah. A couple years.
So what are you going to offer the audience this time?
Well, we have 3 plays. We have Bright Half Life, which is, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, Bright Half Life is an exploration of a long-term lesbian relationship over 40 years. It's told out of sequence, and it jumps around a lot. So it's kind of, it'll be fun for the audience because it's sort of like watching Westworld, if you've watched that, where you got to try to figure out where are we in the timeline here, and
I love that stuff.
yeah. So it's really very tightly written. So it's great. It's all the ups and downs of a long-term relationship.
It spans 40 years
40
or
years,
so.
yep.
One of the things I really like about that show is that it kind of normalizes the lesbian experience. So instead of having a dramatic car chase scene or somebody dies or there's a suicide at the end, it's a very thoughtful progression about these 2 meet, they fall in love, they get married, they have children, they fall out of love, they become friends again. And so there's a real fluid nature to their relationship that I think is it's just really nice to see that in a play. I was really happy to read this play.
It goes
Get
against
it.
the narrative of damnation that many of us have become used to.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
Aunt Jack.
No,
Back to back.
That's
No,
Bright
that was
Half Life.
I'm so sorry.
Susan will talk about Aunt Jack. She's in that one.
That's a good segue.
All right, tell us about Aunt Jack.
So Aunt Jack is a really, I think it's a funny dramedy kind of a play, and it's about a lesbian who has a child with her 2 gay male friends, and that child is now in his mid-20s and comes home for a visit, and it really turns on its head the notion of parental expectations for their children. So he kind of comes out as straight, and the older generation is mortified. What did I do to deserve this straight son? Where did I go wrong, and how dare you be straight? And it really gets into kind of bisexuality and millennials being much more fluid in their decisions and orientation and sort of pansexual kind of things. And it's juxtaposed against the older generation who's really struggles with the language and the openness to sexuality and some of those other components of the play. But it's also really funny. There's a drag queen and there's some stereotypical characters. Unlike Bright Half Life, this one sort of goes the other extreme and pokes fun at some of the stereotypes.
Are you in it?
I play the cranky middle-aged lesbian, as Bennett would say, typecasting. I play the mom to the son, yeah.
That's great.
And then I am in A Perfect Fit,
Okay.
which is the story of exploration in 2 generations, and the differences between exploring when one is in one's 40s and late 40s and in one's 20s. And that's really all I will say.
Spoiler.
You'll keep us waiting to the actual production. Would you mind telling us how you happened upon these plays? 2 of them are premieres, is that right?
Yep.
Bright Half Life was actually brought to us by Kim Ward, who's part of the Vermont Playwrights Circle and is pretty active. And she had read this play and really was interested in doing it, performing this somewhere in Vermont. So I brought it to the committee. And I think we have a really interesting process. We all read the first 20 pages or so, and then we see, if it's something that's going to fit our mission of kind of educating the community about LGBTQ issues. And so that came to us. Sometimes things come over that transom. I think people just lob them over. And sometimes we have a more formal RFP type process where we actively solicit plays from folks. And I think Perfect Fit actually came to us last season. And we had a director that really wanted to be involved and asked if we could produce it this season instead. Aunt Jack was just kind of a crapshoot, really, in some ways.
Yeah.
That was our final play, that we were all looking for that final play, and we decided to kind of take a chance on it. And as we read it, I think we all really got engaged with the material.
With A Perfect Fit again, last year we didn't like the way it ended. And so we did engage the playwright and said, we have some, it feels like the end is sort of deflating. And we helped workshop part of that play. So it was really an interesting process to have the playwright come and work with us and try out different ideas and see how the play could be improved. So it's really fun to help bring plays to life that way.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Who is the playwright? On my notes
Of
here.
A Perfect Fit, it's Leah Romeo.
Oh, okay. Here it is. Directed by Cher Laston.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's directed some of our pieces in the past. Yep.
And Kim is directing the play she likes, Bright Half Life.
Yes.
And
And
Jean
Jean-
Heinrich is doing the Aunt Jack.
S.P. Monahan,
Yes.
screwball comedy.
So I think they live in Brooklyn and they're coming to the show.
Oh
So
my
I think
gosh.
they have some real life experience with some of these gender non-binary roles and looking at some of these different relationships. So I'm really excited to meet them.
When do you start looking at plays? How long does this go on?
As soon as the festival's over.
It's like
pretty
we're always
much.
looking at plays.
Yeah. Yes. In addition to, we mentioned Cher directing this play. She's also directing the presentation of transcripts, Part 1, The Women.
Tell us
That's
about
happening
that,
again.
if you would, Bennett.
We did a presentation of a play called Transcripts. It's 7 transgender women who tell their stories on the stage. And we did it as a benefit performance this past winter, and we are moving that production now to Burlington for Pride Week. So Wednesday, September 5th, as part of Pride Week, Vermont Pride Theater is doing another staging of Transcripts. It's going to be at the UU Church at the head of Church Street in Burlington, which is sort of great. We're excited about having one of our plays have renewed life or continued life, and it's going to be really great to bring it to Chittenden County and have it as part of Pride Week. We're very excited about all of that. The play is multiracial. A number of transgender Vermont actresses are appearing in it, and a couple of them are vets. So it's sort of a really interesting a path, I think, the path of being a vet and being transgendered and coming out and telling someone else's story that has a lot of resonance with your own story. It's great. It's been a very exciting production to work with.
It sounds like it breaks a lot of new ground.
Mhm.
And was it a staged reading when you did it before?
It was a staged reading. The play's written by Paul Lucas, who's out of Boston. He's now writing a follow-up to it that is about men, transgendered men.
I
Yep.
heard that. It was also playing at the American Repertory Theater in Boston. Didn't it have a run there too?
Yes, yep,
And I read about it there, but
Yep.
you know, I'll look forward to seeing it on the
that's
film.
been great. Also, as part of the festival this summer, so between the 2 weekends, we often do something in the sort of midweek, and this year it's going to be a showing of the film Philadelphia, which is having its 25th anniversary showing, and that's free to the public. We are hoping to gather some donations for the AIDS service organizations in the area as part of that, but we'll be highlighting Gabriel Q's art as part of that evening, and people get to come to the music hall, the air conditioned and beautiful, and see Philadelphia. So we're excited about that too.
And I guess we should get to should we get to some nuts and bolts? Ticket prices, advance sales, that kind of stuff?
Sure, tickets are $20 in advance and $22 at the door, and it's a sliding scale for seniors and students, and folks can get tickets at chandler-arts.org.
Then you have special deals.
We do have a special deal. Yeah, you can buy a 3-ticket pass for $50. And whether you split that with friends or you come 3 times, which we hope folks will do, come and see all 3 plays.
I think this service you're performing to the Central Vermont community is really priceless. Could you talk a little bit about the power of theater and how transformative it can be and entertaining and all the, I don't want to say services, all the attributes it offers to communities?
Theater, in so many ways, has always been a therapeutic opportunity. Being in theater is therapeutic. It is for me. Theater is used in schools with young children, with teenagers. Theater is used in prisons. So being a part of theater is really therapeutic, and our presenting these plays in Central Vermont, in an area of the state that was really resistant to some of the more forward-thinking experiences, say, of civil unions. Yesterday, many of us marched in the Randolph 4th of July parade. We also did that 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, even just 3 years ago, we had people who weren't very happy about our having been in the parade. And now we had cheers and clapping and people coming up to us and congratulating us and saying, yay, you know, great gay pride, and smiles all the way along the parade route, which was really exciting. So we've made an impact in that neighborhood and in the surrounding area. And we only hope that we can have more people come from a larger area, really, is what we've aimed for.
Somebody
what we're
asked
trying
me
for.
today, why Randolph? And that seems random. And I said, no, that's exactly where we need to be. The mission of this particular committee is to educate people and sort of normalize that experience. So you start kind of in the center of the state and you work your way outward. And we hope that one of our goals is to, as Bennett was saying, reprise some of these productions and bring them to Burlington and Brattleboro and different parts of the state. We'd love to work with other local community theaters. To me, the thing that really appeals to me as an actor is when you can touch somebody and you make that eye contact with somebody in the audience and they're looking at you and enjoying the experience, or they come up to you afterwards and say, I never thought about that. Transcripts was transformational to be a part of, because I had people literally crying in tears and coming up and asking questions about the experience of playing that character, and getting to meet folks that have lived experience on the stage and do talkbacks and inform the audience who don't think about these things as they're at the Shaws, you know. So you have an opportunity to really reach out to people in a kind of a safe way. You're not confronting them with your flags and, you know, your ideology. You're actually teaching them a lesson in a subtle way often, and if you make them laugh, that's even better. And I think that's the appeal of something like Aunt Jack, is get them laughing and then kind of sneak in the message. You know, kind of.
There are really a number of examples of coming to the theater for folks in the Central Vermont community, coming to the theater and having an experience that got them talking about something that's happened in their own lives or with their own families, among their friends. We hear this all the time, and it's really gratifying. It really opens doors for people.
And that's a great feature of the festival, that you have talkback sessions
Yes.
after each play. I mean, those are wonderful experiences.
We'd love you to come down and lead one.
Why, thank you. I would love to
It'd be
do that.
awesome.
On that note, we should probably close. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for
Everybody,
having us.
do you have any last words?
Come see our shows. We don't
play
bite
with
unless
us.
you want us to. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great experience, and I highly recommend it.
July 20th to 29th. I got it right this time. Andra, last word.
Come.
Bennett, want to
I
wrap
agree.
it up?
It's a great lineup, and we'd love to see you in Central Vermont. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, now we could do trivia. That was a
And-
good interview.
And I think this makes Bennett our only 3-time
Yeah.
That's right.
interviewee.
That's
we may,
right.
We may have to give him a
And
sash.
everybody go to this if you can.
Yeah, go. It's great.
You know, we all need your support. All organizations who are doing great things.
Well, and also looking at what we were talking about with the social environment, community is never going to be more important.
No.
You know,
Yes.
our standing with each other, creating forums where we can be in close physical proximity with each other.
Yeah.
I think because we live in a rural area, we don't fully appreciate the physical contact, just being in the presence of other.
And also being
Has impacts.
public in every arena
Right.
of the community.
And we're doing our job. We're trying.
Sometimes we can be very trying.
Onward.
But moving on to the trivia. So, till you bade us adieu, I hardly knew the value you had taught my heart to set upon you. In the National Archives, it was written to John Lawrence, who was a military aide to George Washington. And of note, Lawrence, during the Revolutionary War, was trying to abolish slavery and was promoting having people who were indentured, who were slaves, fight in the war, and they gained their freedom. But it was written to him by Alexander Hamilton.
Oh.
Seems Lin-Manuel might have left a little something out of the musical, because there is a quote of George Washington encouraging them to share their bunk while they were at military camp.
Ooh.
So with that,
Oh. I think we probably will say goodnight
and
and resist.
Resist.